Heat, cold, rain, sleet, everything in between. Today's episode, we're talking about garage doors in all different climates. Welcome to the Garage Authority Podcast, powered by A1. I'm your host, Jonithan Phillips, and today we're talking about weather. We're talking about how weather affects your garage door. So I figured I'd bring on an expert, such a good expert that he's actually a trainer at the A1 Garage Door Academy. The one and only Christian De La Rosa has returned.
How's it going, brother?
What's up, brother? So, obviously, we have students that come from all over the nation, so you kind of have to make yourself an expert of not only Phoenix, but you need to be an expert for what happens in Michigan and what happens in Florida and what happens in Kansas and what happens all the way up in Washington and Oregon. So I feel like you're the guy that can really help owners understand. With our first question, how does heat versus cold affect doors, and not just doors, but also what's in the garage?
Yeah, exactly. So especially that last part you said, right? So if you let the heat get into your garage and you have parts that are plastic, they're going to start degrading. So if you ever had like a storage bin and you pick it up and it just starts falling apart, that's because the heat got to it. I mean, it's just plastic getting worn down with heat. Now, what about the door? So usually when the weather shifts from hot to cold, that affects everything that's metal. So realistically, usually when things start to break in your garage, it's usually when the temperature shifted from hot to cold or from hot or cold to hot.
Right.
So when the seasons change, so like right now, we're going from Arizona. I mean, we don't really have a cold season, but
it's cold to me now.
Right. But it's cold enough that it'll affect pretty much the material your door is made out of, which is metal. So it's gonna, how is it? It breathes, it contracts, it expands, and so right now it's gonna contract. So all those parts that were comfortable are gonna get a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
You're gonna hope that they last long enough for them to survive for the next season. Well, if they don't, you're gonna have a broken spring. You can have damaged cables. You can have a few damaged parts in your door.
Right. I think the biggest thing is people don't understand the domino effect that happens. Like, we can talk springs all day. Springs break when they break. You can get ahead of it if you have maintenance and you have someone that kind of sees the life of your spring, or an operator that tells you how many cycles, right? Because they do that now.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand, it's like, oh, how does it get to a cable? Well, okay, let's say a spring breaks and then doesn't have tension, then it comes off a drum, and you try and operate the door, and it's off the drum now, so now it's on an edge that's sharp, and you tried to run it, and it pulls and slices the metal on it. Or even if you just have the crappiest rollers in the world, right? Crappy metal rollers or crappy just plastic, no bearing rollers, and then that exposure that you're talking about, those big high temperatures and low temperatures, and now they start to stick here and degrades down, and now it's kind of walking up through the track and pulling all types of different ways. So now the torsion system's working harder. Now the bearings, and now just everything compounds to eventually that door not working or on the ground. So I don't understand why people wouldn't get maintenance throughout the year. Now, we always talk about either the freezing condition or the Phoenix just hot. But what about that middle of the road, that dreary, that humidity, and that rain? How does that kind of affect parts and homeowners?
Jesus. Okay, so let's say like humidity, right? So a lot of people use their garage as a storage unit. Well, let's say if you were going to pay any storage company, right? And they're like, well, we'll let you store your things here, but there's going to be water leaking into your storage unit. You're going to be like, no, what the heck? Like, no, I'm not storing anything here if there's water seeping in. But some people let that happen to their garage, right? So if they don't do things like put a proper weather seal or put proper trim, or we have something called a storm shield.
Oh.
Storm shield actually is supposed to seal the bottom of the concrete, or pretty much the bottom of your door,
Right.
Where the concrete goes, and it keeps out the water. So when it's like raining, it just helps it's literally a shield that helps keep the water out.
Yeah.
But let's say if you don't do that, right, you're going to have moisture inside your garage, and that moisture is going to go into the things that can seep it in, so like cardboard. So you're nice,
Ooh, the smell of dirty, wet cardboard is in my top. That makes me, I don't know what cardboard is made out of, but whenever it starts to degrade a little bit and it gets that just moldy smell to it, I can't stand that smell.
Yeah. But like a lot of us, we try to keep our Christmas tree in its original box for as long as we can.
Right.
Well, if you have a lot of moisture, that box isn't even going to last a year.
Yeah.
Next time you try to grab it, it's going to be all ugly and yellow stained and everything. And that's because you didn't have a properly protected garage. So,
Dude. Now, what different materials, in your opinion, handle weather better than others?
yeah. So, okay, like from the outside, your door might seem the same, right? You're like, oh, everything's fine. But then you start looking at the little details, and all of a sudden you notice that your trim is falling apart.
Right.
Because the heat is, or like just bashing on it. Or, let's say if we go into something more on the internal side, your motor, if you have a belt-driven motor, that's a plastic belt. It's a rubber belt.
Right.
That can deteriorate a lot faster when it's exposed to pretty much the elements, right? So all of a sudden it's nice and comfortable in the heat, and all of a sudden it gets cold. Now it's like really, really rigid. All of a sudden you try to open your door and it shakes. Now you're going to have broken sections of your belt. So the weather can affect the internal components. It can affect like even the smaller stuff, like your bottom rubber. So if your bottom rubber is like constantly hit by the heat, especially depending on the color of it, some of them are a little bit more lenient. It can start to fall apart a lot sooner.
Right. That's why we do gray.
Yeah.
Specifically in Phoenix, we do gray because the black bottom rubber, that sun hits it and then it just shrivels up and dies. And then, I mean, the labor cost alone to get into that, because you got to pay for someone to come out and replace it. And hopefully it's a door to where you don't have to do kind of sketchy things to get the bottom rubber on there. Like, I don't know. Do you want to keep doing that every 2 years out here, or do you want to get a professional with a nice gray bottom rubber so it'll last 5 years or more, depending on how you take care of your door?
Exactly. And then let's talk about a key component, your rollers. You just mentioned them earlier, but oh my God. They're literally the thing that's holding up your door in the air.
Yeah. That's what blows my mind about it. Everyone's like, oh, it's just a roller as long as it keeps it in the track. I'm like, it's literally the only thing holding it above your head. Like, it's a very important part.
Exactly. And some people are like, oh, it's those plastic rollers have been on there for 20 years. I'm like, what you just said is a problem.
Yeah.
They've been on there so long that they're ready to go. These poor things have been a dead horse for a while. So, oh my gosh. So yeah, we've seen some sketchy stuff out there, man.
Yeah. So what type of seasonal prep do you feel like people should do?
Oh, dude. So 100%. It's just, I would inspect the condition of my trim. I'd inspect the condition of my bottom rubber. If I can, I'd do like insulation if I'm going into like a hot season, right? So if you can, insulate your door if it's not already insulated, right?
Right.
Which I hope it is. And then your rollers, 100% have them lubricated, have them maintained, just have everything maintained. It just helps out the whole system, right? And then just regular parts that can be swapped out. So your trim, your bottom rubber, swap it out.
Yeah.
You know, protect your door, protect your house.
Yeah. Have any company come out. It doesn't even have to be us. To have someone come out, do a balance test before the season changes. Make sure that your spring's still in good condition and it's actually holding true. You know, get yearly maintenance, minimum. If you have a big wood overlay door, right, that's something that really doesn't work in a lot of weather conditions, whether it's hot or cold. You really got to maintain that thing. Those need to be done twice a year, I would say, at minimum.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wood overlays, I mean, you're paying for what you get. So you paid for a very expensive door, there's going to be a lot of expensive maintenance.
Yeah, it's like a Maserati. You know what I mean? Those expensive luxury cars, like, yes, it's cool, but the oil change for it is going to be crazy, and you have to take it in, and stuff is going to go wrong for that look. Now, is there any climate-specific stories that you've dealt with clients? You know, you've been doing this long enough. You're an instructor now. Like,
yeah, so I have a few. So, I mean, mostly in Arizona, not going to lie. But here I had a customer, right? I went over to his house, going to service the garage. Their motor finally died. So they're like, hey, can you replace the motor? I was like, yeah, if you could just take out the golf cart. They're like, oh, yeah, we could do that for you. And so they start backing out the golf cart. And all of a sudden, he starts freaking out. And I'm like, oh, whoa, what happened? Well, he had windows on his garage door. And the part of the window that allowed the sun to hit the golf cart had caused it to become like sun bleached.
oh.
And so he really loved that golf cart, right?
Yeah.
So he was just angry at the fact that happened. Now, this was a snowbird. So he wasn't here during most of the time. So now that it was time, he's like, oh, now I get to enjoy my golf cart. And now it's all stained and sun bleached. And I was like, oh, dude, that does suck.
Yeah.
And so I had to educate him that, yeah, you were allowing the sun to come in through your windows, which was allowing it to get sun bleached.
Yeah.
Much. And so that guy definitely was interested in looking at new door options.
Right.
So that's one of the cool stories I tell some of the students. I'm like, hey, I was able to sell a door because somebody wanted to protect their golf cart.
Yeah, even if a door's not working all the way to we're going to put the windows on the other side, or we're going to replace the windows with something that's obscure or tinted, or it doesn't matter the reason. There's no convenience that's too small, and there's not a door that's in such bad condition that we can't help people out.
Right? No, it's just they got to realize that the door is protecting everything inside the garage.
Yes.
That's literally what it is. It's a door.
So, what's your number one tip for harsh climates across the country?
My number one tip would be getting insulation.
Insulation.
Getting insulation, yeah. That's going to protect you all the way around, and then just making sure everything's properly sealed. Keep all the harsh climate out, and you'll be okay.
Now, I would give a word of caution for those of you viewing right now that when he says get insulation, that you think it's okay to go get some sort of insulation from the store and add it to the door. Let me put you on some game real quick. Garage doors and the parts that are on them work together in unison, and the weight of the door is so important for the spring to work properly.
Yes.
Now, whenever you go to this 21 feet wide by 8 foot tall door and you're like, oh, this insulation feels pretty light, and then you add all of it to all the square footage that's on that door, what
God.
feels like this little piece might be 1.5 pounds. Well, when you've added 16 of those or more, and then the duct tape, and then your door was already 20 pounds on the ground, so now we're at 35, 40 pounds on the ground.
Yep.
And now your spring is working a little bit harder, and your operator's working a little bit harder. And yes, we protected it from the elements, but now you've created it in such a way to where everything that you gained, you're now putting extra strain in a different way on the inside of the door.
Absolutely.
So always have a professional come out. If you're going to add insulation, you need to get that door weighed and get springs that are calibrated for that weight immediately. All right? That's the one DIY thing that seems so innocent that people don't understand can turn into catastrophic things.
Yep. 100%.
Dude. Okay. So we've talked about our springs and our storm shield and, weather and how it affects certain parts. It's the plastic, it's the metal, maintenance being the biggest thing, and insulation. Is there any other things that you feel like we could tell homeowners that would help them out in this particular subject?
I would just say, to summarize, investing in your door is investing in the protection of everything inside your garage. That's the best way I would summarize it.
Dude, simple, easy, cut to the chase. Christian, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate